Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Meticulous Moments podcast, where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. Today, we have our wonderful guest, Bill Clark, with us in the green room, and we are also celebrating the first year anniversary of Meticulous Moments. So I just want to extend a huge thank you to Bill and all the other wonderful guests who have sent in their videos for us to celebrate with. It's truly been an honor to engage with you. Before I bring Bill on screen, I'm going to read you his bio. You may have seen world champion, world record holding powerlifter, Guinness Book of World Records title holder, professional strongman, martial arts instructor, and motivational speaker Bill Clark on ESPN, Fox News, CNN, or on Fox 40 WICZ TV's Monday Motivation. Bill is also featured in the Ripley's Believe It or Not museums around the world and has been on national and international TV shows and programs. Some of Bill's world records include a 570-pound bench press, 740-pound deadlift, and a 355-pound bench press for 31 reps in less than a minute, ripping 29 license plates in two and bending 7 steel railroad spikes to an angle greater than 90 degrees in 1 minute. Bill was featured on the inside cover of the 2020 Guinness Book of World Records and on the Times Square Jumbotron with Mariah Carey in New York City. Bill has been inducted into a number of halls of fame, including the World Hall of Fame and the Greater Birmingham Sports Hall of Fame. Bill was named one of the strongest men ever to walk the planet, and is also a first-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, submission wrestling, and self-defense instructor. And he also owns Bill Clark Strength, where he trains people in optimal mental and emotional mindset and performance, powerlifting, and weightlifting. And I think I read the Sports Hall of Fame wrong. I think it's Binghamton. But Bill will tell us more about that. Not only has he achieved all of the listed above, but he's also the one and only guest that has ever been on Meticulous Moments 4 times. So let's welcome our amazing Bill Clark. How are you doing, Bill?
I'm outstanding, Juanita, and happy anniversary. And, thank you so much for all that you do, because as I was telling you before, it's truly a blessing to be with you and to see what you're doing, to uplift, and not only the community, but you have access to a world stage, right? You might right now, somebody could be watching or maybe have watched an episode in the past, and what you're saying, what we're talking about could change the entire trajectory of somebody's life. Stories have the power to do that through God's great blessings. But thank you for all that you do, and happy birthday.
Thank you, Bill. I mean, I believe that God is so good. And, if we put our stories out there, it really changes so much for people. And I'm thankful to God for bringing all of this about. Because I was sitting back, in the room, I was sitting and just thinking to myself how everything just fell into place and where we've come and where we are right now. And I just thank God. I really, without God's grace and His mercy, what can we do? So thank you for joining us. You and I had a lovely discussion in the green room earlier. And I know these 4 points that you sent that you and I are going to discuss today. So I wanted to ask you, we have 4 topics for the day for the audience. We've got Japanese TV show, a new world record, how to develop a warrior mindset, and why life sucks when you are a champion. So let's give over to Bill. He's going to be sharing his knowledge.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, what would you like to talk about first? Because as you know, I'll talk all day.
Especially when you and I are in the same room.
Sure. Yeah. When I get up on and I do presentations, they have a big hook, and they pull me off the stage.
Let's talk about the Japanese TV show first. Let's hear about that.
Oh, so yeah, that was the third time I've been on a Japanese TV show, and every single time I just love working with them. They are polite. They do it very, very well. They do it very, very well. They're very kind, very professional. And this show was called Unbelievable. And we had worked out a contract, and just to kind of give you an idea, I didn't have to ask anything. They just said, we would love to have you be on the show. We'd like to feature some of your feats of strength and interview you. And would this be, pardon me, would this be an acceptable number for you? And I don't like getting into. I don't even like talking about money. I really don't. I don't like doing it. I don't like handling it. I don't. I know it's part of life, and I know it's a necessity, but I don't even like. I don't even like to bring it up when I'm talking to people. That's why I think some people have to go out and get an agent, because they do all that negotiating for them. I don't even enjoy that concept. But I didn't have to ask. I didn't have to bring it up. They did, and their number was very, 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 very kind, very, very, very appreciated by me. They interviewed. We did the show. And then we did not do the show yet. They interviewed me. They put everything together, and they said, "Look, we'd like to get some pictures from you as well." And I said, "Of course." So I forwarded them some pictures, and they chose what they wanted and what ones they liked. Then they said, "We're also going to pay you a licensing fee for the pictures." Now I assumed that, pardon me, everything would be all into that one package. I was like, geez, you guys don't have to do that. I mean, now here I am turning away money, but that's how little emphasis I put on it. You have enough to do what you need to do to live, to help people out, then we're good. I'm not a guy that chases around the dollar. I hate it. I understand the value of it. I understand the meaning of it, and I get it. But I just don't like negotiating, not over those things. In any event, I said, "You guys don't even have to do that. We're good." They said, "No. This is how we do things." I was just so, again, very honorable, very, very honorable. And every time I've worked with them to do some kind of a TV show, they have been just the utmost, the professional and the kind, very supportive. How can we help? What can we do? And I can't see. That's the thing. I don't have the rights to the TV show, so I'm going to ask them. They sent me a link to play so I could watch it. And I don't know if I have I don't want to violate their code of honor or my code of honor, so I'm going to see if I can, put it out there. But it just, they're playing Rocky music the whole time, and I don't know, I don't speak Japanese. I've picked up a little bit, of course, throughout my life, but not enough to understand what they're saying. So the gentleman that I'm working with is telling me, he's like, they think you're just the greatest. So then they invited me to come over, which I don't know if I'm going to do. I'm so busy right now, and I would go over if I thought I could serve a purpose other than just being an entertainer, But to go over, that's an awful long puddle to fly over, and to just entertain, So I don't know. I would love to do it, because I would love to meet these people face to face and be able to shake their hands and give the bow of respect and everything. We'll see how it pans out, but I just have nothing but good things to say about them, and they keep coming up with all these little nicknames for me, which are, they're I just kind of, I'm not a nickname guy. We talked about that before, like they saw I sent them some of the grappling footage, submission holds. So they called me the Crippler. And then it was Little Godzilla. So it's an honor. I'm honored. And just very thrilled to have worked with them. They're wonderful to be a part of.
Yeah, that's just amazing that they include you in their shoes, bring your skills and your strength to the world. And I'm glad that they invited you over. You could always go and do the entertainment part and speak, at different venues. Maybe tell them you are a public speaker, so you would love to do the demonstrations, but you also want to bring those messages. I know God's always busy behind the scenes, working on things for us. So keep us up to date about what happens in that sense, and we would love to see the footage. And it's just natural that they give you those nicknames, because they see how you work. They see how you conduct the martial arts, and they're lovely people. I think Japan is a beautiful place. So if you have the time, I'm sure you would like to go, like you've said. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I mean, you have mentioned a new world record, and I have been wondering about that. Tell us about that, please.
So I was over at a school, and I don't have the actual everything that well, I get ahead of myself, so I'll eventually get there. But I was at a school speaking, and they were amazing. It was at a Christian school, and the kids were so polite, so kind. Um, and I told them, I said, I'm preparing because I just signed a contract to break several records. And I was preparing, and I said, look, it's not real. It doesn't count. It doesn't count because the officials aren't here to inspect everything, to look everything over. They're not here. But at the same time, I'm going to practice it for you. So it would be good for me to do it in public. And it would, hopefully you'll enjoy it. And, but it doesn't, but I don't want all the little kids to get, not just all little kids, but big kids, small kids. I don't want you to get too excited because it's not going to count. It's not the real world record because the officials aren't there to see it. So I bent to Horseshoe Forum and, did some other things and ripped the license plates and a few things. And then I took 2 decks of cards. So I think it was because the cards that are used in this record they're playing cards, but they have rules in them too. So if I'm not mistaken, there's 56 in each deck, not just 52. So it was 112 cards. So I ripped the cards for them, and the world record at the time was 12.75 seconds. If my memory serves me right, 12.75 seconds. And I don't know what I did on that day, but I brought one of the kids up, and we gave the kid a stopwatch, so the child was able to say, okay, 3, 2, 1, go. It brings the kids and gets them involved, and they love it, So I finished up my presentation, and as I do, I'm going to sidetrack for just 1 second. When I was a little boy, I went to a professional wrestling match at Binghamton here. We have an arena, and they had a wrestler that was there. His name was Gorilla Monsoon, who later on I met. His real name was Bob Morella, and he was a massive giant, some 400 some pounds. He probably could have gone to the Olympics as a super heavyweight wrestler, but he instead went into professional wrestling. But he was a legit wrestler. I mean, he wasn't like just as we see on TV with the punching he was a legit submission wrestler, Yeah. So at the end of the wrestling matches, I wanted his autograph. The man came down and he sat on the edge of the ring, and all these kids just came rushing up to him. And he sat there and signed absolutely everybody's autograph. I mean, this guy, he didn't have to do that. It's the end of the show. He's sweaty. He's tired. He probably wants to go get a shower and go back to the hotel room. But he sat there. And then later on, I asked the man when I said, hey, you used to come to Binghamton. And he said, yeah. Very polite, very kind man. By this time, he was substantially older. I was just coming up through ranks, and he had been retired and things. And anyway, I said, you used to sit. He goes, yeah, on the smaller venues, like, smaller towns or mid-cities, mid-sized towns. Binghamton would be one of those, He said, I would schedule my match last. Wow. So that way I could go sign all the kids' autographs. And I thought, now that's a classy thing to do, right? And inverse that with another one where I was walking one night down and I saw one of the wrestlers coming out, and he just, no. And he told me, he said, kid, I'm off the clock. He didn't want anything to do with it. He just wanted to go. And I thought, as a little kid, gosh, if you're in a position where somebody wants to come up and ask you for an autograph, I still remember both of those times where one man said absolutely and signed everybody's things. And then the other one was like, kid, I'm off the clock. And he just took off. So I thought, as I was going through my weightlifting career, people would ask for autographs, not that much. But then when strongman thing started in the Guinness World Record, and then you kind of become on all these TV shows, then a lot of people want. So I have never said no to anybody. And after this, when I get done with the school, I will tell the principal or whoever I'm working with, adults want pictures, adults want selfies, little kids want autographs. So I tell them, you're going to have to schedule some time because they're going to want things, and I don't turn people away. So everybody I've worked with has always been very kind, and they set a block of time where the kids will get in the line. So on this day, I probably signed, I don't know, maybe 500 autographs, probably more than that, which is an honor for me to do. I just sit right down, and the kids come up, and I talk with each one, and I sign things, and we're done. So at the end of the speech, the kids did the same thing. They came down, and the principal, I said, they're gonna want things, and I give them like a card. So they all want the card signed. Then they want their sneakers signed. They want their shoes signed. They're little kids. They're just having a good time with this. And they think somehow that I'm somebody important. I'm not, and no more than anybody else, but somehow in their minds, they do. So at the end of the speech, I was done signing things. I got my Jeep and I drove home. A couple of days later, I get a letter in the mail. Came like this, and it's got a letter in the middle from the principal of the school saying thank you so much for spending the time with the kids. I forget how he worded it, but we don't get that very often. And for somebody to come in and sign all those autographs, we paid you for an hour, but you stayed for 4 because you were just so appreciated, which I thought was just very, very kind. You always want to give as a lesson in life. You always want to give more than is expected. So in my eyes, if I sign a promise that I'm going to be there for an hour, I'll be there for 3. I'll be there for 4. I'll be there for 5 if you want me. I will block out the day, even though we set an hour. I will give you as much as I can on that day because I think it's the right thing to do. Well, around that, if you could picture this, there's the letter from the principal, and then there's a card from all of these kids. And they said at the top, please come to our school and break a world record. And so I got the letter, and I thought, okay, how am I going to say no to this one? I was planning the record in the fall, and that's several months away. So I said, okay, school gets out in June. This letter came in late April, I guess. I said, I got some work to do. So I called the principal and, again, faith in the Lord, Jesus above. I said, okay, God, look, I can break this record, but not without your help. And we need to do this the right way. So you're going to have to blast me with some heavenly lightning here to get this thing done the right way. I said, so I'm going to go ahead. And I called the principal, said, I got this letter. Thank you very, very kindly. I'll be happy to come. I said, we have to try to schedule it toward the end of the school year because I need some time. So I practiced, and Juanita, I'm telling you, people just have no idea what my hands looked like. They were like hamburger because I was pushing so hard. I didn't have the time that I needed to heal in between training sessions. So my hands were just ripped apart. And then on top of that, I actually broke the knuckle on my middle finger rolling with jujitsu practice. I turned somebody over. I didn't take my fingers, which was a stupid thing not to do. And it just broke my fingers. So now I've got these hands that are mangled, a broken finger, and now I'm scheduled to break this world record. So about a week before, I usually, a week in advance, I'm usually very, I'm resting. And I'm just practicing my technique, And that's one thing I will say too, is people look at these things and they say, my gosh, you're ripping 2 decks of cards. Well, when you do it the right way, it makes it look a lot easier than it is. So I say that because it's going to hurt. The cards, when you're putting that much force, and I have I have a couple of decks that I've ripped. I have one over here. I'll show you how thick they are. But you're trying to put the cards into position, just like submission wrestling or jiu-jitsu, right? You're putting a joint capsule in a position where it can no longer move. That's the whole idea, is to eliminate all of the space. Then you use your body weight, or the force to put enough pressure to make the person that you're training with say, okay, this is good. This would do it, right? Without actually hurting the person. Well, with cards, they don't tap. So now you have to actually rip them. So you get them in this position and you use your body weight, right? You use your body weight. But even still, all that force is just going to tear right into your hands. There's just so much force. So that week, I'm training and training and training, much more so than I ever would have, quite frankly, because I was a little insecure about this. I'm not going in front of those kids and not breaking this record. So I actually packed into my bag. I packed up 8 decks of cards. So they have to be opened up right there and, inspected and looked at and everything. So I brought 8 stacks of cards, or 8 packs of cards, in case I failed with one. I said, look, we're doing this again. In my mind, I said, we're doing this over and over and over until those kids go home happy. I'm not sending them home without a world record. So that morning, I came in, and I always try to have a mindset. Well, I don't try. I create a mindset, and I walk a little differently when I'm getting ready to compete. I walk a little differently, talk a little differently. I have a routine that I follow that changes the dynamics of my mindset. So I always tell people the competition doesn't begin when the clock starts. The competition begins, months before, and it increases in speed all the way up until that clock begins. Part of this routine is for me to take my bag, put all my equipment in it, throw it over my shoulder, and then I get up to where I'm going. Usually there's some kind of security thing where people have to come out and get you. So I come in and I see this school, and there's signs, go Bill Clark. Bill Clark is the champion. I mean, these kids were so nice to me. I'm telling you, there was no way, with God's blessing, I was breaking this record. So we got in, all these officials here. We had an announcer who's a National Hall of Fame announcer. He's just incredible. He's done sports events all over. He's a good friend of mine. Roger Neal is his name. So Roger came and he emceed the event. And he can take anything and make it sound amazing. So he's got this crowd just going crazy. And of course, I'm introduced and I come out, and these kids are right there already asking for things to be signed. So of course I walk over and I start signing, and here they come. So then now I'm kind of in charge of this. It's not like I have like security all over the place. So I said, guys, I promise you, I will sign everything. So you just got to be patient with me. When I'm done with this, I will make all the time in the world for you. But right now, I got to get my head together. And the kids were great. They were like, oh yeah, we can. So they all went back and sat down. I thought, gosh, who are these kids? I mean, they were just like, they were like little professionals. I was just amazed, And so then we get up, and I open up the car. Actually, we had one of the officials opened up the packs of cards, and so then we stacked the 2 of them up, and so I get ready, and I can just feel this energy. I mean, I'm telling you, I haven't felt like that in a long time. And if you've ever seen footage of usually when I break a record, I put whatever I'm lifting down, whatever I'm ripping, and I thank God, and then I just thank the people. But it's very little emotion. Very little emotion. I mean, there is, but it's very contained and very controlled. I got these cards. I got them in position, and I looked up, and that's the last thing I remember. And then, I remember hearing go. And it was just, they were done. And the record, I think, was 1.53 seconds. So I've never done it that fast. Never even close have I done it that fast. I was so thrilled. I mean, I just took the cards and I threw them on the ground. I mean, I'm usually not that emotional. I'm usually very controlled. I was so, the kids were screaming and yelling. And I mean, anyway, so we got done with the event. Well, we had a question and answer afterwards. I couldn't believe all these kids with their hands up. They want to know how long I've been training. When did I start? What was my home life? One question after another. They had to finally just say, that's about all the questions we can take. Well, afterwards, one of the teachers came over with her kids and asked for a class picture. So she brought her kids over. The rest of them came running out of the seats, and they all grabbed the cards. I don't have one piece of that card, not one piece from the world record. They took everything. They took everything. And then I sat down and just signed things for the kids. But that may have been my favorite world record of all time, just because of, not because of what I did. I don't care about that in the least bit. But because, you know what, I knew that those kids, every one of them, from what I could see, they were all in there. I mean, they were in with me and they wanted this. And I've never felt, I don't think I've ever felt that appreciated by a crowd before. I mean, I've done things at baseball stadiums. And yeah, people have been very supportive, but not everybody. That's the thing. I think that's the difference. You do something at a baseball stadium, there's a lot of people that are supporting you. Then there's a lot of people who are, the baseball game's done and they're waiting for the fireworks afterwards. And so they're looking at you and they're like, hey, this is cool, but I want the fireworks. So they're watching, but they're not supporting. This whole school, I've never felt anything like that. They were just, I can't say enough about them. I never felt a thing. At the end, I couldn't sign people's things without taping up my hand because they were bleeding. It was just bleeding so badly. So I had to kind of like seal up the cut and spray it with some like a little new skin, they call it, kind of seals it up. And then I taped it because I don't want my DNA getting all over everybody's cards. But yeah, it was a very nice time, very nice event, and just thrilled to be there. They treated me.
Oh, that is incredible! Congratulations.
No, it's not. Thank you so much, Juanita. But it's not. I didn't do anything special, not at all. Thank God above, and really everything. Like even people say, doesn't it hurt? Yeah, it hurts. Look at my hand. But even that, God has already given us a system. He's already given us a system to concentrate on other things rather than pain. I don't. Thank you very kindly. I appreciate that. But I'm just a messenger, and I'm not trying to be overly humble. I'm just telling the truth. I wouldn't be doing these things without God's good grace and blessings and being able to find what I kind of good at, I suppose, and then having a head that's thick enough to endure the nonsense that goes along with doing the things I do.
Yeah. No, I think it's incredible, Bill. I mean, 1.5, was it 1.53 seconds? That is, and you know what? I've heard of athletes before going into, let's say tournaments or records, and they can't remember the whole thing. And really, that's just amazing when you mentioned that, you always lift up your hands and you obviously thank God before you go into this massive feat of strength. You didn't remember. You can't remember doing it, and you did it in 1.53 seconds. That is incredible. I am so, so proud of you. Congratulations on that huge, huge achievement. Those kids look up to you. That's why you have no cards left. They're all gone because they want a piece of that. That's a reminder to them of what happened that day. And I'm so happy to hear that they were supportive, that they really just raised that energy, that they were there and enjoying themselves to the max. And I know, Bill, that's what brings you joy as well. That's what makes you happy because you bring that upliftment, you bring that inspiration. Those kids are going to remember that for the rest of their lives. That's incredible.
Well, again, thank you very much. I know I'll remember it for the rest of my life. But you mentioned I don't remember a thing. I never did. And you know what? People ask me, what's it like to win a world championship? And I tell them, I don't know. I don't know. I know what it's like having won a world championship. I don't know what it's like to win one because I never remember the moments. This is the power of the mind and how you can be conditioned, and this goes for anybody else that's watching, that's dealing with stress, anxiety, all of these things. Number one, go see your doctor. Okay. Make sure it's not just some chemical imbalance, because that does happen. But if you've trained yourself to react, and that's really what kind of stress is, it's a reaction, right? Anxiety is a reaction to the events that are coming into you, and you're seeing the worst possible outcome. That's what produces anxiety. In your mind's eye, you're seeing bad outcomes. Well, if you can train yourself to see bad outcomes, you can train yourself to see good outcomes too. And that's the difference between anxiety and excitement. You stop getting anxious and you start becoming excited. When I was at the Olympic Training Center, we did so much. And I had the psychologist, I'm sure I've mentioned her before to you. She did so much work. And then afterwards, I continued this with some local sports psychologists here. And again, they were just tremendous. And what I realized was that the mind could be programmed, right? It could be programmed, conditioned. Now remember, brainwashing is when you don't know what's happening. Conditioning is when you do. Conditioning is when you understand what you're doing to your mind and you are 100% engaging in the process willingly. So I decided that this mind thing, I was going to make my mind as strong as it possibly could be. I did not want that to be the weak link, because as you know, wherever you're weakest, the events at that level will expose where you're weak. And if you don't fix that, you're always going to be at the mercy of whatever weakness you have. That's why I tell people you have to stop running. And you can't, look, there's certain things we don't want to do because we know it's not optimal, right? We don't jump out of an airplane without a parachute. That's not a smart thing to do, right? We have limitations. But if you know what you want to do, if you know the things you want to do, and you know you have the talent to do it, then you have to start finding where you're weak. You have to put yourself in the worst of positions so that you can have those weaknesses exposed. Then we know what to fix. It's very much like jiu-jitsu or submission wrestling, catch wrestling, whatever you want to call it, because there are differences, but to me, they all blend together. I will have people, other pros that are very good at what they do, because I don't want to hurt anybody, nor do I want to have somebody who doesn't know what they're doing go too fast or too hard and hurt me, right? We're always looking for safety, always trying to protect each other. But I will have them sink in a guillotine. Put this in, get on your strong side. I'll get on their strong side. I'll let them put me in the worst possible position so that I know how to fix it, right? And it's the same thing with life. You have to find where you're weak and attack it. You have to confront and overcome. So I thought my mind, coming back full circle, I had to make sure my mind was where it needed to be. So we actually trained my mind so much to really just, and it wasn't purposefully done. I just think it's the way it happened, was that I would step on the platform when I was competing, or with the Guinness World Records or whatever. I would visualize. I can still remember visualizing. But then after the referee says go, or whatever the case may be, when that event starts, and short durations like that. Now, with other things, I do have the ability to think because the adrenaline wears off to some extent. And if it's going for 30 seconds, I will remember that. I'll remember parts of that maybe. If it's going for 4 minutes, I will definitely remember elements of the 4 minutes. But for things like this, it's such a short duration that my mind has just been trained to wait for the completion. That's it. So I can remember winning the world championships. I remember having won them. I don't remember making the lift at all. I don't remember anything about any world record weight that I've ever lifted. Bench pressing, squat, I don't remember any of them. What I remember is all the time the referee either saying racket or down. That's all I remember. I remember walking up to the platform. I remember visualizing. I remember inspecting the bar. I remember all of those things. But once I started, it just my whole mind just weird, weird. But I never remember winning. I remember having won. It's almost like you come out of this like this. It's almost like you come out of I don't know, some kind of a trance or something, you know. And then it's like you come back to reality, and then you realize, you know, geez, I guess it's pretty good. But I don't remember lifting the weights. I don't remember tearing the cards. I do remember getting them in my hands. I remember locking them into position. I remember talking to myself saying, okay, stay heavy, which was my cue of using my body weight to lean into the cards. So I remember talking to myself, give myself all the instructions. Then I remember looking up and nodding, saying, you can start. And then I just wait for the go. And then I don't remember a thing until after. And throwing the cards, I don't remember that either. I don't remember throwing the cards. I just remember seeing the video going, oh, that's where they went. You know? So I don't remember any of that stuff. Then I remember like walking around and seeing all the people. And then it kind of, your mind, it's weird. I don't know enough about it to explain it. Or maybe I'm not smart enough to explain it. It's just, I guess it's like anything else. Your subconscious takes over, and your subconscious doesn't know how to tell time. Your conscious does, your subconscious doesn't. So it changes the reality. It changes the way you see life unfold, you know. It's fascinating to me, but again, it's just training the mind to be able to do those things is probably 50% of it.
Absolutely phenomenal. Well, you know, it's so wonderful to hear that you relay that to the audience, because I've really heard of people before that said they can't remember. And you know, that we do Shorin Kan karate, but we also do Mushin Kan, and that means empty mind karate. And our whole thing is we try not to overthink what we are doing. We want to train our bodies, like you've mentioned. We want to train our bodies so that in that moment your body will react, because by the time you've thought it through, it's too late. You know, someone would have overpowered you or maybe hurt you. And I was thinking about that. You trained your body so much, and that skill and the way that you hold the cards and everything so long, and you knew there was a deadline, you wanted to get this done. Your body reacted in that moment, and that's why you can't remember that. That's amazing to hear. And it shows that you're in tune with yourself, your body, your soul, your spirit. They are in tune. When your conscious wasn't aware of what you were doing in those moments, even after, your body was, you know, reacting in the correct manner. And that's just amazing to hear again how God put us together as human beings, how we are so diverse, how we are so intricate, have such depth, that these things can even be possible. So absolute congratulations to you for that. I couldn't wait to hear, and I'm so happy that you shared that with us today. And I want to ask you about a warrior, how to develop a warrior mindset, because you talked a lot about mindset and cultivating that mindset, telling yourself certain things, having that time every day. How do business professionals out there, athletes, martial artists fit into that group as well? How do they work on their mindset to be that warrior that they know they can be? I saw a picture of a little kitten staring into a mirror, and on the other, in the reflection of the mirror, the kitten was a lion. And that's a warrior mindset. You know, it doesn't matter where you come from, and you know, who your parents were, where you are in life. What is your heart like? What do you believe you can do? So teach us more about the warrior mindset, please.
Well, you know, I think over time it has to be built, it has to be cultivated, right? Where we start out in life is never where we finish. We're not standing still. And if you think you are, you're not, because the world's still moving forward, and that by default push you back. So you always have to, I think, always have to be moving forward. And when I speak of like a warrior mindset, I'm not talking necessarily about winning gold medals or breaking records or being a fighter or anything like that. Those are not the things I'm talking about. I'm talking about being able to handle life. And this has to be conditioned. And so for me, going back to the world record and not really even thinking about this, which to me, and I developed this kind of a thought years ago. There's a difference between reactions and responses. And in my mind, and this is, anybody can accept or take or whatever, it's just a way for me to remember this, that reactions are in large part untrained. They're untrained. You take a little kid and you throw a ball at the kid who's never seen a ball before, what they're going to do is they're not going to know how to catch it. They've not been trained to catch it. They're just going to try to block. They're going to put their hands up as an automatic, right, and innate mechanism to protect their face. So that's a reaction. A response is where we've trained. Look, you don't need to do this. You hold your hands like this and catch the ball. Just grab around it, whatever, however we catch it. But that's so important because responses are trained, reactions are not. So when you get to a point where you're at in my case, I'll just use this world record. Everything that I did was all a response. They weren't reactions, they were responses. I had trained them over and over and over. And my mind going into this was constantly fighting these insecurities. But that's the fight, right? That's the fight. The fight always takes place in here first, then outside second. If I have the fight won on the inside, then the cards they'll follow my lead. If I do everything the right way, and I know I have the potential to do it, see, there's the difference. If I've never ripped a full deck of cards before, then I have no business trying to, right? But if I know I can do the 2 deck of cards, then that fight has to be in here first. And that's why people will ask me, like, well, what's it like getting up, in front of all these people? I mean, what if you fail? So I never really contemplated that. I never really thought. I never believe in a plan B if I know plan A is going to work. Why do I have to have a plan B, right? Except I did bring a bunch of cards with me that last time because I was having such a hard time with the hands. But then again, I'll bring this back around. I said, I will not fail, right? The battle had already been won inside. And I said, even if it takes me, a couple tries, I'm in this thing. I'm not going away. We're going to get locked inside a steel cage here. And the cards are going down and those kids are coming home happy. That's not an option. So I brought the things with me, which I guess is a tactical move. It's not really a move on insecurity. It's just a tactical move, but we didn't need them. We took care of business on the first try, but that is that warrior mindset. That warrior mindset is understanding that, you're always going to have some level of doubt and insecurity. That's perfectly normal, but you can't let the doubt and insecurity grow to the point that it's this much higher than the flower, right? We have to subdue the weeds and get those flowers to move up. And that takes place through conditioning. That takes place through training a response, not a reaction, a response. So I'm a big believer in I don't do a lot of meditation for the sake of meditation. Like I don't sit down and breathe to like relax. People say that, what's the expression? Somebody was just telling me the other day that they're like, oh my gosh. And of course now it'll come back to me, but there's like, they always talk about, you have to have like this constant sense of peace. And I say, no, I don't believe in having a constant sense. There's a time there's a time where I want a sense of peace. Yeah, before I go to sleep. The rest of the day, I'm fighting with myself. All the time, I'm wrestling with myself and trying to get better and looking for different ways to get places. So I don't believe in being in this constant state of peace. That's not for me. I'm not saying anything about anybody else, but for me, I'm always challenging, always looking for another way to do things, always taking on, another approach to become better. And that really means that you're not in the state of peace. You're actually outside of that. And that's most of my life. And that's why sometimes being a champion kind of sucks, because you're always in a fight inside. Now, that doesn't mean, I shouldn't say always, because when I go to sleep, and throughout the day too, I will say my prayers, and that's my quick, okay, I need a minute. So I'll take a minute, right? But then the rest of the day, I'm still out there scrambling around, and that's the thing. So I'm up, and then I come down, up, down, up, down. And that, to me, is how you develop this warrior mindset. That's one of the ways, through constant fighting with yourself. But it has to be optimal so that you don't burn out. So there's a system. So what I learned at the Olympic Training Center was a system of really it's they called it visualization. But before you can visualize, you have to tap into the subconscious. So you have to breathe in such a way as to trick your body into thinking it's sleeping time, because that's when the subconscious, that's why nightmares feel like nightmares, because your conscious is kind of a regulatory agent. When I can think of my nightmare right now, and it doesn't bother me because my conscious is in control and it's saying it's not real. But when I go to sleep, the conscious is the only part that sleeps. The subconscious is always going. Now that has control of the bus, and it's going to drive you to some places that you might not want to be until you condition that subconscious to behave. And I always use the analogy that it's like a dog. The dog is going to pee wherever it wants to until you teach it to go outside. Then once it's learned, and then it will go to the door. My little Lucy, she goes to the door. She knows that's where she's supposed to go. That's a response. The reaction is her peeing wherever she wants. No. We don't want reactions. We want responses. So a punch comes, right? Get your hands up. Now, keeping this might be a reaction. The hands are open. Well, now your finger's going to get broken, right? We don't want your fingers like this to catch punches. You want them like this. So now your hands don't get. That's a response. So we've taken the innate mechanism, and we've changed it around, and we've done it through so many repetitions that now we don't have to think about it anymore. Now that is the default setting. So the response has overridden the reaction, and now it's more optimal. That's how you develop that warrior mindset. You talk to yourself. And I'll tell all my friends out there listening today too, when you think it, every thought changes the chemistry of your blood. Every thought changes the chemistry of the blood. So there are no such things as neutral thoughts. But when we speak it and we think it, it's 40 times more powerful on average. So the studies say anyway. So if I think I'm a champion, and all I do is think it, that's good, right? If I say to myself quietly, I just said, Bill Clark, you're a champion. That has changed the chemistry of my blood. But now I go, Bill Clark, you are a champion. You are destined for great things. God has created you to be a champion. Now I'm saying it and thinking it 40 times more powerful. I don't know why I just held up 5 fingers. 40 and 5 have nothing to do with each other, but it's 40 times more powerful. Okay. Now watch this. Now I think it and I speak it while I'm training under stress. Now we have the stress of training. And I like to do this not so much when I'm grappling, because my mind is too focused on strategies and optimal outcomes, but when I'm doing my conditioning, right? When I'm running, when I'm on a Stairmaster treadmill, when I'm doing dummy work, I use dummies to do a lot of conditioning. So I will do 15, let's say, over the shoulder throws with a 120-pound dummy. So I'll do a series of several throws, and then I'll take a rest while I'm recovering, because that's the whole idea, right? We train, we recover. We train, we recover. We train, we recover. It's during those moments of recovery where I'm breathing heavy. My body is now being conditioned under times of duress to think, act, and speak the right way. So to me, this is how you develop that warrior mindset. You put yourself in situations where you don't have to really be too technical. Like I've done the over the shoulder throw so many times that I know what I'm doing with it. But I'm actually I'm not saying I'm a champion when I'm doing the throw. I wait until I've done a series of reps and now I'm recovering. That's when I talk to myself. That's when I will talk to myself. When I'm actually doing the throw, for me, one of the cues is we call it tabling, where I will put my hips through and put the person over the low part of my back. We call that tabling. Yeah. So I want the person to be able to rest on my back, and then I can shift my hips and over the person comes. Same thing with the dummy. There I'm focused on technique. When I'm catching my breath, I'm focused on developing the warrior mindset. And when you do that enough times, that mindset will carry over by default into the stressors of life, so that you no longer have to think, can I make it? You already know you will. That has become the default setting in your mind. So you have eliminated the doubts. You've already taken care of that. Now you already know your outcome. Now you just have to go out and live in a way that matches the results that you already know you're expected to get. And so for me, that's how I develop that mindset. And it takes work, because you have to condition the mind throughout the day. Sometimes we're resting, we're conditioning the subconscious, right? And to do that, I'm breathing a certain way, I'm relaxing the body. I have certain code words that I use for this. So then the body shuts down. The conscious is what's shutting down along with my breathing. That tells my subconscious, oh, wait a minute. Are we sleeping now? Because remember, the subconscious doesn't know the difference between what's real and what isn't. So the subconscious goes, that's why your nightmares seem real, because the subconscious doesn't understand the difference between reality and fiction. So when the subconscious goes, wait a minute, this is my time. That's when you, wait a minute, it's time to go outside, right? I don't want you going to the bathroom here. We got to take you outside. Now I'm training the subconscious at that level. It's one way to do it. Then, oh, that's beautiful. Then we, hello. What's Kitty's name?
Sookies.
Hello, little friend. She's gone now. Oh, I love animals. I do. They're very innocent. That's why I like them. But so we train that subconscious, because that's what this is really about. Because under times of stress, that's what's going to take over. The subconscious takes over during times of stress. If we haven't conditioned it to respond, it's going to react. So we have to teach it how to behave. So we calm down, we simulate sleeping. We're not asleep, we're simulating sleeping. That's how we train it. One way. Then the next way, we start talking throughout the day. Like, have a little list of things. I'm that guy that I'll be walking through Walmart and I'll be talking to myself out loud. And I'm sure people that are looking to me, who's this guy, But there's a purpose to what I'm doing. Yes, I might look a little bizarre, but there's a purpose for this. I'm talking to myself out loud throughout the day. Why out loud? 40 times more powerful. Now, when I have I've chosen the stressful conditions, right? The stressful conditions of training. Now I continue to talk to myself and think. So there's really three, probably more than that, but there's three levels that I use to develop that warrior mindset. And it takes time. But after a while, it becomes the default setting. And you see, we always talk about people that, what are you going to do when the rubber hits the road? What are you going to do when it's that hinge moment in life? Are you going to choke, or are you going to prevail? It's that warrior mindset that oftentimes is that's the catalyst to moving you over. But it doesn't happen for free. You have to be trained to overcome those thoughts. And they're going to come. Everybody's going to have those thoughts. And then one last thing I will tell you is I have a physical cue. If you look, I will tap myself, right? I will tap myself. So I know what mode I'm supposed to be in. So I could be pacing back and forth like a lion and somebody asks for an interview. Tap, smile. I've changed my whole dynamic, right? Now I'm the guy that gets in front of the camera and talks to people, and I represent like a champion. Now the interview's done. Now back to pacing. Now it's showtime again, right? Because we have to be able to switch that mindset. You have to be able to switch that mindset. It's optimal and it also conserves energy. So we have to be able to move from one thing to the next. And the more we practice it, the more optimal it becomes, the less energy we waste, and therefore we can apply it more toward the events that we're scheduled to get into, scheduled to take place in.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. You know, we have to be adaptable in these different scenarios. And I've spoken, online about it as well. And I call it sub personas because I'm not going to be rendering my sermon as a pastor, the way I'm going to be fighting a jiu-jitsu match, even the way I'm going to conduct a public speaking event, or if I'm being mom at home. It's a sub persona that we take on, and I love the fact that you have the taps and the triggers and the mindfulness about it, how you can switch it on and off. And that's what makes you a world champion, because you've mastered that art, switching on and off where you need to the various gears that you need to go to. You have to be able to, and we also learn at the dojo. It's good to always be peaceful and to live in that state of equanimity. The moment that something that's a threat comes at you, you have to be able to switch over and say, well, now I'm going to protect myself. So a valuable information right there. I'll share with you something that I read the other day. And you've been speaking about the subconscious, we've talked about the conscious, subconscious. They were talking about how the brain really sends out those signals, right? We know that the brain signals the body. And they were explaining how researchers now found that each and every single cell in our bodies is like a battery. There's a positive and a negative side. So that brain center of ours sends out these signals to these cells that are alive and living and like batteries that can be recharged. And that signals go to the gene node, and that goes out to the body. And the point of the whole explanation that he gave, all this research, this terminology, all these studies that they did, the point was your thoughts are the things that manifest not only in you as a person, but in your life, in your relationships. And you've added to that for us today. What are you saying? How are you reinforcing that, making it 40 times stronger, as Bill has explained to us? First of all, get to that place where you change your negative thoughts to positive ones, whether they are fear or anger. Change them, and then change your words like Bill has brought to us today, 40 times stronger. That brings manifesting, that brings speaking life, because people talk in different languages. Some people speak about the universe, they talk about manifesting. We believers, we speak about speaking life into a situation. Life and death is in the tongue. That makes it 40 times, as Bill has explained, stronger. And that's just amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you were talking about grappling, Bill, and we had a conversation in the green room before we came onto the live about an event that occurred, a traumatic event, and also something that you're putting together, which I asked you to please relate to the audience so that they are educated when they get to that place of grappling jiu-jitsu. We know, we talk about martial arts. I don't think people realize that it can be a very dangerous sport, especially jiu-jitsu and grappling, MMA. Please speak to the audience about what we discussed in the green room. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, believe me, it's my pleasure. So yeah, what a lot of people see on Instagram, okay, and YouTube, in large part, you're seeing very polished pros who are also practicing with other very polished pros. And so you see these moves and you see them, effortless. And one thing you have to understand with catch wrestling, jiu-jitsu, submission wrestling. Again, I don't care what you call it. There's subtle differences. Wrestling, it's a little more aggressive, and you want to take the dominant position, and you want to be heavy on people. Now, submission wrestling. Jiu-jitsu, you're almost waiting for somebody else to make a mistake. That's why they'll pull people into a guard position, because jiu-jitsu people don't mind being on their back. Catch wrestling, we want to be on the top. We want to dominate. We want to control them. So they're all very similar. One thing I will say is that one wrong move with either of these, and people don't walk for the next 6 weeks, 6 months, whatever. You break somebody's ankle, you use a toe hold, and you go too fast for the person that you're training with. These are life-altering injuries that can occur. And so you have to be so careful. And, with the people that I train, I have a consulting thing where I train people who are going for their black belts in some sort of a grappling art. And I don't always agree with, and I'm not saying it's wrong, not at all. I wouldn't judge like that. But I know for me, when I put people in holds where I have to stay heavy on the neck, I call it bringing in the stunt double. So I will let people feel like something like we call a power half, where I will underhook an arm, come around to the neck, and then I can shift them over. And now they're like, their neck it's a neck crank. Now, with things like that, I don't always, by the way, use a dummy. It depends on the level of neck crank. If I have more control over it, like I will do a lot of neck cranks with my leg coming over somebody's head in trapping. Okay, I don't have to key lock somebody to let them feel that. I can, I don't have to. But when I do something like a power half, that's body weight driven. So when I turn somebody over like that and their body weight doesn't go the right way, that can snap their neck. So, I mean, we call it roll, find the hole and roll. Well, a lot of people think it's gymnastics. So you see people on the internet, and their job is to display techniques. And I love the fact that they do it. They're demonstrating what they do. They're showing people different ways that, they're growing the love of grappling. I think that's all wonderful. What I'm trying to convey is that the people that don't have that level of expertise need to be taught, right? You need to be taught how to do this, because it's not gymnastics. So gymnastics, a lot of times you do somersaults, you'll duck your head and you'll roll. Well, there was a guy that just had his neck broken because he went to do this whole and roll thing. And what he failed to see was the intricacies of the technique, where you're not rolling like this, you're turning your head and rolling off of a shoulder. So your shoulder and your back, and yeah, your head and neck are taking some of it, but the movement itself, the force of the movement is being dispersed across a body line. That's what keeps you safe. But if you duck under like this, now I'm 220 pounds, and some of the people I train with are well into their 200s. If I duck into an opening and somehow I get stuck underneath them, I have my body weight, which is now over me, plus their body weight, which is over me. The math doesn't add up well. So you have to be so careful with this, because again, one wrong move, and you can paralyze somebody. Again, with submission wrestling, one wrong move and you snap somebody's ankle, or an elbow goes, or a shoulder goes, and it can happen just that easily, all because somebody didn't roll the right way. That's why it's such an effective form of fighting, because the people that you might have to defend against don't know how to roll well, and because they don't, they get locked into a position where the joint capsule won't move, and now it snaps, and that ends the situation more than likely. Again, I want to preface this as well. You will never see me out at a place where I know there's trouble. I don't go to bars. I don't, I might go to a restaurant and I'm home by 8 o'clock. I have my dinner and I go home. I will not go to places where I know people are drinking heavily, or because I know if I go to this place and something happens, then I'm going to get sued. So the question is going to be in court, Bill Clark, why were you even there at 1 o'clock in the morning? And how do you answer that when you already know better? So I don't go. So you always want to use these things, again, as a method of training, as a method to increase your confidence and develop the warrior mindset that applies not just here, but to life. We want to develop these things for all the right reasons and eliminate all the wrong reasons. So when we're training, we have to be so careful. And that's why I'll bring people in and I will demonstrate techniques and holds. But then when it comes time, I will oftentimes bring in a dummy, because I'm not going to, my first responsibility in this whole process is to not injure my training partner. I have to make sure my training partner is safe. So I will talk to my training partner, and we're shooting these videos now, which I don't know much about it, but I partnered with an organization that has an online subscription. And at first they said, we'd like to do $50 a month. And I said, no, that's not, that's too much. We want to make this so then we agreed. We got it down to where they felt that they could make some revenue. And I'm okay with this, with $10 a month, which I thought $10 a month is very reasonable. And they will have all access to all these build up videos where again, we're teaching people, how to do this very, very safely. When is a dummy appropriate? When should we be thinking about using a dummy? When is it okay to use a training partner? And then you see how I'm actually talking to my training partner. Like to give you an example, we were talking the other day about what we call an elbow pop and a duck under, and then you're using your head to trap that person's shoulders so that you can turn them into you and take the back. Well, if the person that's taking my back, if their hips are too high and my hips are lower, I'm going to throw them. So then you can see, and maybe we could put this up on Facebook or something so people can see it. But I'm talking to my partner. I'm saying, okay, so now here, because it's an instructional series. So I say, when his hips are too high, that gives you the opportunity. Now I can control an elbow, step around behind, and then I'm talking to my training partner. I'm saying, Kevin, okay, we're going to roll this way. Are you okay now? Are you ready to roll with me? He's like, yep. So now we've communicated what's going to happen. So it's by no means is it live. We're not going live. We're practicing. Now, you want to compete? Yes. Then you have to go to another level. And this is not meant, these training videos are not meant to prepare people for competition. They're meant to teach people the details of holds. And then you can take it where you want to go. If you want to go into competition, then this will be of help. If you want to learn and you want to learn the art of submission wrestling and jiu-jitsu and submission holds, this will do that. But again, always safety first, because the problem with this is you have to be right 100% of the time. If you screw up, as we know in karate too, right? If you screw up, you're supposed to hold back. But if you screw up and hit somebody in the eye, okay, they're going to have a black eye, right? That will recover very quickly. And hopefully that's all it is, right? We don't want to, hopefully the person shuts their eye or whatever. So we never want to make those mistakes. But those are very easily to overcome. That's very easy to overcome, right? You get a raw steak, put it on your face, you'll be okay. But when you break somebody's ankle because you applied the hold too fast or too hard, now that person's laid up for the next 4 months. And hopefully they don't need pins and screws. And so this has to be done. And we did another demonstration, another hold where somebody puts you in what we call sleigh ride position. So I take the leg. If they're leaving their feet open, you got to take them. So I was saying, look, we have to go very, very slow here. But somebody has gotten behind me and we're in a seated position. They're coming up for a chokehold or something. So the first thing I'm going to do is tuck my chin and lift my shoulders up to protect my airways and my blood flow. Something like this. Now I can take that leg and I can shift it under mine. My leg comes over the foot, and all I have to do is turn. And there goes the foot. It's going to snap it. There's nowhere for that foot to go. It's just that simple. But again, we have to go so slow because you can actually feel, right, the point of where a joint begins to go. We don't ever want to even get to that position. And here's why. Because my level of flexibility in the joints might be different than somebody else's. You can't assume that just because my foot moves here, that your foot's going to move there. Maybe your foot only moves here. And then as soon as I go there, the thing breaks. So we always have to go very slow with this. And if you want to go fast, go ahead, but use a dummy. Use a dummy to go full speed. With people, we go very, very carefully, and we make sure always safety first, because you can't get it back. You can't get it back.
Absolutely. My phone rang. My apologies. I lost signal there for a second. Bill, you are sharing incredibly important information. I just want to, say to the audience there what Bill has just shared with you. Take that to heart. If you see things online, there's a reason why they say don't try this at home. We know when to stop. We know where to stop. When we're doing omoplata, when we're doing rear neck stranglehold, when we're doing scaffold, leg locks, we know when to stop because we've done it over and over and over again. Bill has done it for so many years. He knows so much more than I do about this. I do agree with him 100%. You need to be sure that you are in a controlled environment. This is for training now, and that you are with people who really know what they're doing, because you can get seriously hurt. Sometimes people see things online and they try it, they think it looks easy. It's not as easy as it looks. Get yourself a qualified instructor. Get this course that Bill is putting out there to teach you exactly how the mechanics of the body works. He's explained to you when someone wants to choke you, what's the best thing to do is put your chin down and put up your shoulder so that they don't get that blade of their arm in, so that they can choke you. These are the things that you have to know before you get into a place where you can actually say, okay, now I can roll with someone, because then you'll know when to stop. Educate yourself. Sports is very karate, jiu-jitsu, grappling, all of those are very, very dangerous. Bill, it's always so sharing knowledge with us, for taking the time. I know you've done already 2 workouts today, and because you're always on the go and you still have some more workouts for the rest of the day. And as always, I'm going to ask you to leave the audience with words of wisdom, and also please make available when you have those links for the new training, for the jiu-jitsu and the grappling. Make them available. We would love to support you. Thank you so, so much.
Well, thank you again, Juanita. I could come on. I mean, people are going to get sick of hearing me, but you ever want me, I'd be thrilled to come back again. I love spending the time and talking
Awesome.
with you. It's a real blessing for me to be with you and be on your show. So, you're going to have great things coming, no question about it. So thank you again for having me. And yes, we have a lifting one too, where I'm teaching people how to lift weights the right way, the safe way, and a mind performance course too. So there's 3 things that we're working. That's why I'm so busy with all these filming things. But you know what? It's the right thing to do to give people this type of knowledge. And the last thing I'll say about the grappling element, and then I'll finish it up with one piece of something that I think I hope and pray will help people. You have to be careful who you surround yourself with. You know who you can trust when you're putting really your life in their hands. That's how you know, right? So when you pick training partners, for God's sakes, make sure you're picking people that when you allow them to put you into a hold, like an omoplata. I mean, an omoplata will tear your shoulder and elbow apart if it's done the wrong way. So matter of fact, if it's not done the right way, that could also cause a severe neck injury, because one joint leads to another joint capsule. And you're talking about your spine and your cervical spine. That's why wrestlers spend so much time working on the neck, to try to protect that area. But you have to know who you're training with. So when you go pick your training partners, for God's sakes, make sure that they're going to be very, very, look, they have to be safe, and they have to put you first. When I put somebody in a hold, yes, I'm doing it to practice my technique, but I have to put their safety ahead of my technical execution. My training partner's safety always, always comes first. And if you're training with somebody that you get the idea that they're out there to try to then no, because that type of a thing puts you in the hospital. It's so please be very, very cautious with who you train with. Surround yourself with others that are going to look out for you like you look out for them. And that's the honor system we have. And that's the pledge that you give to people. You have to be safe on those mats. So thank you so much, Juanita. And I'd be happy to share those links. We should be having them up. I believe the launch date has been moved up to September. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And I think people can get a lot of knowledge from this. And plus they see how to work out at home with a dummy. And the lifting thing, that's a little bit, well, even that is so intricate, because if you're going to deadlift and you do that the wrong way, this is why everybody's afraid to deadlift. And we deadlift all the time. Picking up a piece of paper off the floor is a deadlift. We just have to be able to do it optimally so that that load that we're choosing to lift doesn't win out over the spine, right? We control the load doesn't control us, that type of thing. So thank you again so much for having me. And I would encourage people to see through the eyes of belief, okay? See through the eyes of belief. Hope is great. When you hope, there's an element, though, that's beyond your control. So you're wishing, hoping, praying, whatever, that all of these things add up. When you believe, you are 100% convinced that the outcome is already taken place. You just need to go live in a way that brings the belief to fruition. So I'm a big believer in seeing through the eyes of belief, right? The eyes function as a purpose. They bring the light in, but the brain is what makes sense of what the eyes see, of what the light brings in. You can see things with your mind that maybe before were unimaginable. You have to see it in the mind before you can actually do it, I believe anyway. So see it, do it enough times. Remember, seeing it in your mind does not take the place of doing it, but it's the first step in making it happen. So see it, go out and practice it, see through the eyes of belief as though your destiny has already been written. And pretty soon, you'll be on the top of the mountain with the others that have done the same thing and have been able to do some things in their life that in the end, we hope that we're happy with.
Absolutely love that. I'm going to carry that with me into my next 2 months. Thank you. Let's see through the eyes of belief. Believe it, you can do it. Thank you for this wonderful uplifting session, Bill. Of course, you're going to be back. You have to catch up every now and again. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest of your Friday. God bless you.
God bless you too. And thank you again so much for having me. I love you all. Thank you. Go get them now.
Go get him. Bye, Bill.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're the #1 fastest growing community and tribe of some of the highest level entrepreneurs all around the country and around the world. We're in 36 states across the U.S., in 11 international countries, and over 240 plus members growing every single day. And I'm honored, excited, and I'm glad to say that I'm proud to be the official sponsor of the Meticulous Moments podcast with Juanita Kapp. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm excited for this journey.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Ellis. I'm from the Thought Provoking Change community. I am honored and humbled to be a sponsor of the Meticulous Moments podcast, brought to you by the one and only Juanita Kapp. It is such a joy and privilege to be on this journey with you, and I look forward to seeing where it takes not only Meticulous Moments, but also Thought Provoking Change. Looking forward to this partnership. You're a great person with a great podcast.
Hey everybody, my name is Patrick Rude. I'm the owner of Rude Financial Services, a proud sponsor of the Meticulous Moments podcast, hosted and directed by the beautiful, strong, and intelligent Juanita Kapp. I cannot tell you enough about what this woman has done with this podcast and the effect that she has had on me and all of the other sponsors and people that listen. Don't miss it.